All right, Grasshoppers, it's Monday morning. That means it's time for the great, the one and only Mark Puttenvik. What's up there, bud? How you doing?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing good. So just to recap, I make sure I introduce him. He's got a fantastic company called Patriot Training Systems. Correct?
Yes,
Patriot Training Systems. I finally got that right after, what, about 20 shows? I got it right. And Mark and I know each other. We didn't actually know each other when Mark was a strength and conditioning coach for the Rangers, but he was that. So we've got a little bit of a bond there. He's also trained a lot of people from housewives to Navy SEALs to Delta Force. And we met, I think actually the first time we met was in regards to the swim across the Hudson that the Navy SEALs did from Ellis Island to Manhattan. So that was fun. That was a great event. So,
by the way, our third is August 7th.
Oh, so, okay, good. Nice.
Yeah. And I'll keep you up to date on that as well.
Good.
And we have 70 SEALs already signed up.
Well, it was only 50 the first year. There were 30-something the first year.
First year was 33, so it's just growing. And then we will have some law enforcement, first responder, and other type of veterans. So we're probably going to be over 100 participants this year.
So just so everybody knows, this is a great event. And again, they've done it 2 years in a row now. So it's a bunch of Navy SEAls, and it was primarily Navy SEAls to start with. They've included some other people in it now, but they swim from Ellis Island. They go to a barge.
Liberty State Park.
In Liberty State Park, I apologize. They go to the first barge. Actually, they do push-ups and pull-ups at Liberty State Park too, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So they do 100 push-ups, 22 pull-ups, 22 pull-ups to signify the 22 suicides that happen amongst military personnel, although some people think that number is higher. So they go to the first barge. They swim to the first barge. They get back up on the barge. They do another 100 push-ups and another 22 pull-ups. Now, meantime, they're battling the tides. It's the currents. It's interesting watching them do it because you think that they're trying to get straight to the boat, but the current's taking way out, so they probably have to go twice as far as they normally would. They swim to the second barge, the same thing, 122. And then they swim to Lower Manhattan. And it's quite a sight, too. These guys, over at Liberty State Park, there's a monument there. It's like a hallway with all the names of the people that lost their lives in 9/11. And so you get these Navy SEAls, just the little Daisy Duke shorts on. And these guys are all jacked up, and they got the flag over their shoulder on a pole. And last year when that Marine came up and he did that speech and everything, man, goosebumps were just flying off me. It was so patriotic and motivating. That was fantastic. So
it's really a great event.
It was even better once they got to Lower Manhattan. So now you got these guys running through the streets of Lower Manhattan, and they do another 100 push-ups and 22 pull-ups, and then they went to the 9/11 memorial site, and just kind of everybody left them alone. They kind of in their own thoughts and everything, prayers. But it was that was a fantastic day. And again, they raised money to go towards was it GI Gold?
Yeah, GI Gold Fund. They're out of Newark, so they're a veterans cause foundation. They do work really hard to get homeless vets off the street, and they also have in their Newark location at Gateway One. It's a job lab. So if I'm an Air Force helicopter pilot and I'm transitioning out of the military to civilian life, I can go to this job lab, so to speak, and they'll source my skill set that I obtained in the military to help me find a job in the private sector. It's a really great group of people.
Yeah, great guys too. The SEALs are unbelievable guys too.
They're Kenny. So it's Billy Brown. He's the spearhead. He's the one who founded this. He was SEAL Team 8, and then of course Kenny Bigby. Mitch Aguilar. So it's just an incredible set of very high level elite men.
Yeah, and like I keep telling this to people all the time too. They're not just these like rough and tumble guys. They're really thoughtful guys. Like when they sit and they ask you and they say, "Tom, how you doing today?" Like they really pay attention. It's like everything that they engage in, everything they do, they give their best into it, whether it's a conversation with somebody or this swim or whatever. Because some of the guys, there's one guy, big guy too, he's fun, but you tell he'd be banged up a little bit and he's limping around, but he wasn't quitting swimming, walking and running and all that kind of stuff. So great guys to be around. But all right, so today we wanted to touch on pre and post game training rituals for all level of athletes, professionals and kids and all that kinds of stuff. And one of the big things for me that I know now that I should do more of it now too, is like a pre-game warm-up or stretching in that. And we didn't do any of that stuff like we should have back in the day. I remember one of the first players came in was Robbie Ftorek, and he started stretching, and we're like, what's wrong with Robbie? You stretch around here. It's funny now, right? Because if you don't stretch now, you're like, there's something wrong with you now if you don't stretch. So explain to me. So a couple of my theories is it's like it's important to stretch before and after, but we're going to talk about the pregame stretch to start with. Do you need to get warmed up a little bit first before you start stretching?
Yeah, absolutely. The actually warming up is, I would say, from my research and my learning, is more important than the stretching itself, because you want to get the core temperature of your body up to about 130 degrees. How do you know that? You're going to start to sweat. And the reason people will pull or tear a muscle is not really because they didn't stretch, it's because they're not warmed up properly. So you think of a muscle as like a piece of saltwater taffy, and it's kind of it's stiff, it's going to break if you snap it. But if you heat it up a little bit, it becomes more pliable. And that's kind of the way you want to think about your muscle. So it's really important before you hit the ice for a practice game or training, if it's off ice, you really need to warm your body up. And this can be accomplished in what we call a dynamic warm up, which is a fancy term for some footwork, maybe some body weight stuff, but just to get your core temperature and your heart rate up and break a sweat. Then you could do some static stretching or dynamic stretching, which is even more important. Movements that'll mimic what you're going to participate in. So, for instance, hockey players have a lot of hip issues, all right, because the nature of skating, the stride, over a period of time, you kind of shorten up that hip flexibility. So there's a lot of, after you're warming up, dynamic stretching or rotational kind of flexibility exercise you can do that will reduce the chance of injury, and increase in your stride length even, or maintain what you have. And again, I think I mentioned to you a while back, Tom, that one of the most important lessons I got in this whole strength and conditioning business, especially primarily, I should say, at the professional levels, from when I did a little work for the New England Patriots, and Bill Parcells said, hey, listen, your job here is not to make them better football players. They're already the best football players in the world. Your job is to maintain what they have. And that's the same thing for any professional athlete. So when you talk about a hockey player, you want to make sure that his stride length is going to you show him ways to facilitate the fact that his stride length will stay long.
Right. So let's say it's a mother at home and she's getting into tennis. Weather's getting a little bit nicer now. She's going to go play tennis with her friends. A great way to get outside, to stay in shape and everything. So what should she do to stretch to get ready?
So it's really not going to differ that much from a hockey player, a professional hockey player, or even an amateur player. So you want to do some dynamic warm-up. And a dynamic warm-up is going to be maybe some light jogging, a few light sprints. When I say light sprints, maybe at 50% capacity, and then some really brief, short footwork drills. Everybody has seen the ladder. I like the ladder to warm up because you can vary your foot patterns with it. If you don't have a ladder, easy. Hey, just put 4 cones or whatever you have and run up, forward, shuffle sideways, back pedal, shuffle, do some crossovers, anything that's going to get your feet to move and get your heart rate up, and you're going to break a sweat. If you're going to use a lot of upper body, so do some arm rotations, across the chest, maybe from the back to kind of get your triceps, everything warmed up. So it's a total body movement. And again, it can only take 5 to 8 minutes and you're ready to go. The problem that you'll see, Tom, in amateur ice hockey is limitations, especially now with COVID, but limitations to, when you go to a rink, it's in winter, it's freezing cold, the kids are all bundled up. They don't have an opportunity like you guys do in the garden where there's an area you can warm up. So what they can do as an amateur hockey player, there's every locker room has a bench. So you can do some dynamic step-ups on that bench. You put all your gear on, but leave your skates off and do some dynamic step-ups. That'll get your heart rate up. That'll get that whole chain of musculature that you're going to use for skating warmed up. And you can use your hands as you're going up and kind of warm up your shoulders. And that can be done in a brief period of time in a very confined area.
So that brings up a good point. So let's say you want to try to, I like your idea of warm up in that locker room, just using the bench, but let's say you want to try to warm up at home before you leave to go to the game, but it's going to be maybe a half hour, 45 minutes from the time you do that warm up till you finally get in the ice. Is that just a waste then? Like you cool down now?
It's not a waste, but it's not going to, you'll cool off by the time you get to the rink. But what you can do is do a little warm up and perform something athletic. And what do I mean by athletic? If you can juggle, juggle. If you can't juggle, maybe play some ping pong with your mom. Something that's going to get you to react and react and kind of get your, it's not only the body. We want to get our mind warmed up for the game as well, right? So that's part of the process.
Right. So we talked last week about diet and everything prior to a game. Wendy, how about hydration? Like, first of all, when do you drink? What do you drink? And what don't you drink?
So the best thing you can drink across the board is just water. Make sure it's obviously a good source of water. And you want, again, if you're thirsty, you're already in the process of dehydrating. You should never really get thirsty. So you're going to sip that water. Beth, who is the woman I live with, who puts up with me, and she hasn't escaped yet, but she's a runner. Yeah, I don't know how that hasn't happened.
We got to get her on a show. Just talk about that right there.
Exactly. That's a 4-hour show. But she's a marathon runner, so she's always running. And all day long, she's got her bottle, and she's just sipping water all day long, even when she's not running, when she's just around the house. So it's really important to get that concept. You want to stay totally hydrated constantly. In terms of other than water, post game, I would do something with some electrolytes. Like I said, I think Pedialyte is the best you can do because it really is. It's not medicine, but it's there's no sugar in it, which you're going to find in Gatorade, unless you buy the no sugar Gatorade, and then you're taking in some chemicals, which I'm not crazy about. But I would just strictly stay with water.
How about caffeine?
Caffeine's fine. Just don't overdo it. I'll tell you a funny story. There's a guy you played against. I won't mention his name out loud. Played for that team across the other side of the river. Mm-hmm. And later on went to coach in the NHL. Maybe you can do the math. Mm-hmm. But there was a product years ago that had a ton of caffeine, and it had ephedrine before ephedrine was a banned substance. And before a playoff game, he drank one. And he didn't have any tolerance, any history. He never tried it before. He thought he was having a heart attack on the bench. So there are limits. So I would say this. For the adult, 1 cup of coffee, which I forget how many milligrams that is, but 1 cup of coffee is fine. You start doing 2 or 3, you're going to get the shakes. And, hockey's a skill set game. And you don't want your hands shaking, for sure. Right. For children, I don't really think they need it, Tom. But, maybe if child's a little older, maybe that 12, 13, 14 years of age, they can start to do a cup of coffee before you.
So I've really gotten big into the amino acids. So I take an amino energy drink. So it's got all the amino acids and then it's got caffeine in it. But I think that's not necessarily for a game. That's before a workout that I take that. That kind of stuff really isn't necessary for a game, right? You're not looking to. Are you looking to feed your muscles?
No. I mean, we're not looking to build muscle, but we're looking to repair muscle. Right. I would use that as a post-game drink. Reason is you're going to have maybe some contusions, some small micro trauma to your muscle. If you get hit with a puck or you really get slammed on the boards. So yeah, a post-game amino acid drink would be fine because it's going to help repair that little bit of contusion or whatever.
How about the stuff like Red Bull or stuff like that?
I'm dead against it because it's read the ingredients. It's like
I know.
It's garbage. Again, just stick with really. Get a good, if you're going to drink caffeine, get a really good sourced coffee that's organic. So, it's a high quality, and then just really good water. They do make waters that are pH balanced now and all that kind of stuff, but just plain healthy water is the best way to go for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Here's actually, this guy's pretty good here. Very intelligent man. He's the one we got to get going on the sleep here too. So
you know what? He came, he was really, really great. Came on, we do a Zoom chat. You were on, thank you, one time with my disabled veteran hockey club, the New Jersey Warriors. And he was so kind. He came on last week and spent about an hour and explained all the benefits of sleep and how as little as much, believe it or not, anything less or 6 hours or less of sleep you wake up in the morning, you're about, correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, but I think you said 0.05. So like you're waking up almost legally drunk if you miss that 7 to 9 hour rest period. So yeah, and it's amazing. And he sent the book to me that I'll forward to you, Tom, when I get done reading. It's written by some of the NHL teams actually have a sleep doctor now.
Yeah.
And this guy, I forget his name. I think it's Sean Ryan. Maybe I may be incorrect on that, but he's a sleep doctor for the Vancouver Canucks. It's a really interesting story, and it just goes to show you how sleep really affects your performance. Yeah. Both in sport and then just in daily life. It's incredible.
Right. Here's 17 hours. Yeah, 17 hours wake us half. I'm missing that.
So in other words, he's saying that if you're up for 17 hours straight, you're already at 0.05. So if you stay awake for 17 hours, at that 17th hour, you're exhibiting the same functions, level as if you were 0.05 with alcohol.
Oh, I see. Okay, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you got a good question here. I like this. We had questions coming in. Suzanne, she's a fantastic mother, drives her son all over the place. We've met. Great little hockey player too. What's a good weight gainer for a 16-year-old who burns a lot more than he eats?
So I would tend to say you want to buy a high caloric protein powder. Now, the thing about protein powders is this. Some people, like myself included, are very sensitive to whey isolate. It just destroys my stomach. If your child you find does have some kind of gastrointestinal issues with whey isolate, then there are plant-based proteins, but there are also strictly animal-based proteins, which I use, which have a high amino acid profile. They have a high bioavailability on the protein, and they don't have any whey. So what you want to do, I forgot her name already. Was it Sandra?
Suzanne.
Susan? So Suzanne, what you want to do is you want to take the powder and then supplement it with a couple of bananas, some organic peanut butter, really make it calorically dense, and have your young man or do at least 1 or 2 of those a day in between meals. Right. And as long as they're still training, they're going to see some weight gain and some benefit from it.
Like in my smoothie, I put in half an avocado, a banana, some almond milk, some spinach, protein powder. I use that collagen protein as well now too. Yeah. And I even get some at Costco. I found some peanut powder.
Yes.
So that kind of stuff to add in there, so it's packed in calories.
Yeah.
You can also add. I have almond butter. Sure. You could use as well. So really healthy stuff, but like you said, like a lot more calories packed in it. But it's all healthy stuff. Like that shake there is pure.
That's a great meal in and of itself. So conversely, if you're trying to lose weight, we talk about intermittent fasting. Maybe if you want to really push it out, like yesterday, I think I went 20 plus hours without eating. If you did one of those right after that, bang, you're done. Maybe a little salad, go to bed, you're done.
Definitely. Yeah. And I know you know this, but again, with kids trying to gain weight, obviously fasting is not for them, but for guys like Mark and I, I can't stress enough for me. Like I always just believed that fasting was about losing weight, but actually you taught me a lot about how that fasting is all these things. And I believe in this, especially during this time, well, all the time, but during the virus and everything, there's so many things that your body can do to heal itself if you allow it to heal itself. And that one of the first things is make sure you got all the glycogen out of your body, all the calories, those sugars and everything. And now your body goes to work and heals itself, regenerating cells, creating more human growth hormone, all that stuff that you've taught me a lot of that stuff too. So, again, that's fasting for us.
So if we go back to the pregame kind of, warm up, Tom. So the NHL has evolved over the years. I mean, just about every locker room, you're going to find a ping pong table. Again, that's a good way to warm up your hands to get a feel for read react. At the NHL level, it's a little different. Every player has his own ritual.
Yeah.
Do you remember Mikhail Samuelson?
Yeah.
So we used to go out in the hallway, and I'd set up the mini hurdles, and he was really religious. He really liked going through the hurdles. That was his way of kind of getting mentally prepared, because I know he's thinking about what he wants to do on the ice, and it gets his feet moving, gets him athletic, and it gets him really nice and sweaty. And then he'd go in and we'd do a stretch. Yeah.
You know what? That's really important. You touched on it too, the mental part of it. By doing the physical warm up and by doing it the same way, by having your routine and sticking with that routine every game, now you're mentally prepared, right? Okay, this is the way I prepared in the past. I performed better doing this, and now that's another part of your process. I hear a lot of people sometimes say, like in a big game 7, people ask, well, what are you going to do different for the game 7? And the pro players will always say, well, I'm not changing anything. Everybody says, come on, it's game 7. You got to change something. Well, no, that's the whole point. Because you prepare yourself to perform at your peak level. You're not always going to be at your peak level, but your preparation is the same. You don't change that for any big games or anything.
So Danny Blackburn, who was an 18-year-old rookie goaltender, and he really played well. I remember like this first exhibition game, he's sitting in his stall and he's going through a visualization process. He's got his eyes shut and he's doing blocker saves. And I walked by him. I looked at Rammer. I said, is he okay? He goes, no. That's just his pregame warm-up mentally. So he's playing a little game in his head. And it's really important that we understand that. I know even in combat sports, fighters will get mentally prepared before a fight. thinking through what they're going to do in certain scenarios. And you know what, Tom? It's a huge part of the SEAL training. They visualize the mission. They go over it in their head time after time after time before they.
One of the best guys, one of my best teammates I've ever had was Glenn Hanlon.
Oh, yeah.
Played a lot of big games for the Rangers. Great guy, fantastic, and one of the funniest guys. And talkative, joking around. But when it was game day for him, when he was playing, you just didn't talk to him. Like he would not talk to anybody. And at first you're kind of, what is this all about? But then he just that was Glenn. Like he took it to the next level. Like it was all day long for him, the mental preparation, almost to the point where I wonder, like you just can't keep doing it. But that's the way he did it. And funny guy too. That was the thing. See how funny he was normally, and then how he was on a game day. So
I think hockey players in general are much more particular about their pregame ritual. Well, I shouldn't say that because I was not in the locker room of any other sport. But as far as preparation and even superstition, I think hockey players rise to the level the other ones don't.
Yeah, you don't realize that you got to put your left skate on first. So many of the stuff like that you have to do at a certain order.
Even when the kids were little, I'd always put the right shoe on first and then the left shoe, and they'd be like, "Wait," I said, "Don't worry about it. It's a whole thing." But the post game thing, Tom, I think let's talk about the professional level for a moment. So what I would do is when you came in the bike room after the game, I had 3 different bike rides up, and one was for if you played less than 10 minutes. It was a very particular ride. So I tried to make it in a 20-minute period, very intense, and we're going to kind of utilize the same rest and recovery rate that you would do if you're taking a shift. And then I had the middle ride was if you played up to 10 minutes. And then I had one anything greater than 10 to 20 minutes, which was usually Leachy and maybe 1 or 2 other guys. And their ride was more just a flush, like an 8-minute flush, nice and easy, just to get all the metabolic waste out of the body and get the recovery process going.
So again, right after the game, so if a guy's played, let's say Brian Leetch plays 25 minutes a game, which is a lot for a National Hockey League player. So he still needs to get on the bike, but it's not a conditioning ride. It's to clean out the system more than anything, right?
Correct. So that's why I had the 3 different time frames and 3 different bike rides. Less than 10 minutes, greater than 10 minutes, greater than 20 minutes. And and then obviously
hydration is huge at that point too now, because a lot of the games I remember myself at Madison Square Garden, some games in the playoffs, whatever, it's a little hotter in the building, you could lose 7 to 10 pounds of water weight. It wasn't unusual for that to happen. So it's really important. Now, we, as the brilliant players we were back then, thought that beer was a food nutrient for us. And it's actually the worst thing you could have done for you, right? And it's let's say you're playing a men's league game and you're with your buddies and everybody wants to go for a beer after the game. It is actually the worst thing for you because you're totally dehydrated, right? And the beer tastes great because it's ice cold, so you're pounding a few beers back in you, but it's just dehydrating you even more, correct?
Well, yeah, and also interesting enough, like this is something Brendan and I were talking to, Brendan Duffy, about being able to go to sleep after a game. Guys are, you're wired. I mean, you can't just go back to your house or apartment and fall asleep. You just play the game. And if you drink alcohol after a game, at first it's going to make you a little sleepy, but then it kind of, after that, it aggravates your nervous system, kind of interrupts your sleep pattern. So it's kind of detrimental from that standpoint as well.
Right. Well, how about the lifting weights after a game? I mean, and I'm saying that more as a conditioning method. Isn't it a good time? Because we used to try to do it like on a practice day, but that rest, sometimes they're getting a lot more rest now. These athletes are in great condition now, so they need more rest, and they don't have to practice as much because they're in such good shape. So if they would lift weights after the game, it kind of lets them maybe have the full day off the next day. Do you like that?
Actually, there's been some teams that have done that as a protocol. And they saw some really good results. And obviously, it's not heavy lifting. It's very light weights. It's, again, more about mobility and keeping the joints lubricated and assisting that metabolic waste flush out of the body. I'm not against it. I think it's a pretty good idea if you have the time and the ability to do it.
Right.
I think Vancouver did it. I'm trying to recall.
Right. Well, Michael Jordan used to lift weights before the game, I believe, working out like that. So.
Again, there's some guys out there like Yager who's just a freak. I mean, he would do 500 squats as his pregame warm-up.
Right.
Worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah. So again, with all this stuff, and I know Brendan isn't going to like it when I say this, but even with a lack of sleep, We understand the science. There's no question. The science is undeniable, the amount of sleep that you're supposed to have. But there's going to be some times in regular life or as an athlete that you're just not going to be able to get the sleep you need, for example, or you may be doing something different than somebody else. It is also, to me, and we've discussed this, where like mentally for me, if I haven't had as much sleep as I should get, and I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, I kind of force myself to get even more mentally focused and end up getting a better workout. Now, again, that's not the correct way to do it from a science standpoint, but if that happens for you, that is also a way to train your mind and your body to say, okay, I'm not where I should be, but I'm still going to fight through that. I'm not going to give myself an excuse to not work out at all or not have as good a workout. In fact, I'm going to have a better workout because I'm going to be more focused because I need to be because of that lack of sleep, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing that may factor into that, Tom, especially when we're talking about playing hockey or any kind of skill game, it's the amount of the, you put your 10,000 hours in, like Gladwell talks about in Outliers about the 10,000 hours to reach that elite level. Once you've reached that amount of time performing, again, let's say it's a backhand pass, right, which is really important in ice hockey. Being able to execute a 30-foot or 40-foot, tape-to-tape, especially for a defenseman if he's coming out on his weak side. But if you do it so many times over and over and over again, you may be able to perform that in a tired state only because your body has done it so many times. You're not even mentally thinking the process. You're just doing it. Yeah.
Right, definitely. I agree. All right. Great stuff today. I like that a lot. So again, whether you are a professional athlete or a young athlete or like a mother going to play tennis, whatever, like you're going to have your things that you need to do. Like Mark described about the warm-ups before, you've got to figure out what is make you comfortable and what sports you're playing, right? But the idea is to get warmed up properly and stretch properly, and also stretching after the game as well, correct?
Yeah, so after the game, professional athletes have it all laid out for them. They have the ability to do it. But for the amateur athlete, it depends. Do they have to hop on a bus right away, to get back to school or back to a hotel if you're a collegiate player? But try to find another 10 or 12 minutes, if that, to do a light jog within a rink. And when you're jogging, maybe so what I would like to do is go forward, side shuffle, back pedal, do some karaoke, and just kind of light. And again, you're flushing out that metabolic waste. You're cooling your body down. Then you can stop and do some static stretching. Then hit the shower. And here's a really important thing: when you do hit the shower, go as hot as you can, and then go as cold as you can. Oh. It's like it's very therapeutic. It does help in recovery. Yeah, so that's a great tool to utilize.
How about eating after the game? Obviously, like a pro athlete, if the game's at 7 o'clock for a hockey player, may not eat since like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So the game maybe ends at 10 or 11. He may not get a meal until 12. It's important to eat, right? You need to eat before you get to bed.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for the professional athlete, I would tend to, again, you want to eat clean. So I would do a fist-sized amount of protein, and it's individual for everybody. So I need this much protein for me. You're a bigger man than I am. Your fist is bigger. Eat a fist size of protein, about the same amount, and a good source of carbohydrate like a yam, sweet potato, something like that, and then some vegetables for the nutrients. And you're done.
So you say a fist size of protein. Some protein, whether it's chicken or fish or whatever it is.
Steak, fish, whatever. You're the size of your fist, gotcha. Which is a good like kind of marker to understand how much to eat and not overeat or undereat. Yeah,
definitely. Did you, by the way, did you see my cooking show yesterday with the fish and chips?
I didn't get a chance, but I want to watch. What'd you make?
Oh, I made homemade fish and chips. I did it in the air fryer. So and I used the sweet potato fries for my chips and the air fryer. So I had the breadcrumbs a little bit, so that wasn't perfect, but I used almond flour. But in the air fryer. Oh my, you get an air fryer?
No, I need to get one. I really do. Yeah.
I recommend it. You really do get that fried flavor, that like the crispiness that you would normally if you used oil, but obviously it's in an air fryer, so there's no oil at all. So tasty.
I did get. I got Beth bought me a Vitamix for Christmas a few years ago. And they're really powerful things. So now what you can do for a little sweetness, I think you put 2 or 3 avocados in there. You put some cocoa powder in there, organic cocoa powder, and you make it like it's like a pudding. Right, put a little maple syrup in there for a little added sweetness. It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. I put my avocados. I get them to the ripeness I like, and I have them get them out of the skin and everything, and I put them in the freezer and freeze them. So, and then I do the same thing with my bananas. So, and I take them out, let them thaw out a little bit, and then put them in my blender. So you don't have to have ice or anything. It's nice cold.
Right.
Yeah, avocado, surprisingly, in the smoothie is nice. It tastes good.
It's really good for you.
I never, the smoothie I would have had in the past would have been beer with beer in the past. But,
maybe some pizza along in there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, bud. Good seeing you again. Mark, he's got his company called Patriot Training Systems. You can go see him online at patriottrainingsystems.com. Super guy. He can train anywhere from Navy SEALs to women at home, or maybe some old guy like a Ron Greshner sitting on the couch at home too. So,
if anybody has any questions, feel free to hit me up on Facebook as well.
Perfect. Excellent. All right, bud. Good seeing you. See you next week.
Always fun. Thanks, buddy.